Racist Karen asks black man to leave his own pool. What happens next is unbelievable. Marcus Reynolds sank deeper into the cushioned lounger, the afternoon sun warming his skin as he closed his eyes. After 3 grueling weeks finalizing the Henderson project, this moment of peace at his condo's rooftop pool was well-deserved. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and the gentle splash of the fountain provided the perfect backdrop to his rare day off. 6 months after purchasing his luxury unit, Marcus was finally beginning to feel at home in the prestigious Oakwood Heights complex. Before I go on, I would really appreciate it if you give this video a like, click the subscribe button down below. It would really encourage me to create more videos for you. Thank you so much. Alright, let's continue. Excuse me. The sharp voice sliced through his tranquility like a knife. Marcus opened his eyes to see a white woman in her 50s, designer sunglasses perched on her head, arms crossed over her tennis outfit. This pool is for residents only, she continued, her eyes narrowing as she scanned his face. I'm Diana Whitfield, board member. I don't believe I've seen you here before. Marcus sat up slowly, his architect's mind quickly cataloging the microaggressions unfolding before him. The way she emphasized residents. The presumption that he couldn't possibly belong in this space. The familiar weight of being questioned in his own territory settled on his shoulders like an unwelcome visitor. I am a resident, he replied calmly, reaching for his water bottle. Unit 1507. Moved in 6 months ago. Diana's perfectly lined lips thinned. Well, I know most of our owners, and I don't recall anyone moving into 1507. Do you have your resident key card with you? Her fingers drummed against her arm as she waited, expectation glinting in her eyes. Behind her, 2 other residents had stopped their conversation to watch the scene unfold. I left my wallet in my apartment, Marcus explained, maintaining his composure despite the heat rising in his chest. But I assure you I live here. My name is Marcus Reynolds. He deliberately left out his credentials, his architecture firm, his recent project featured in Design Quarterly, his newly appointed position as chairman of the building's renovation committee. People like Diana rarely bothered to look beyond the surface. Anyone can say they live here, Diana said with a dismissive flick of her wrist. Without proof, I'll need to ask you to leave. We've had issues with non-residents using our amenities. She pulled out her phone, making a show of preparing to call security. I'm sure you understand. We need to protect our property values. Marcus felt his pulse quicken as other residents began to stare. He recognized the situation spiraling into yet another viral video of a black man being harassed in a space he had every right to occupy. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd not only purchased his unit, but had also recently inherited his uncle's significant shares in Meridian Properties, the company that managed Oakwood Heights. His uncle's final gift, meant to ensure Marcus would never be powerless in spaces like this. Ms. Whitfield, Marcus began, his voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. I've lived here for 6 months. I've attended 2 community meetings. I've even spoken with your husband about his company's bid for the renovation project. He stood up, towering over her at 6'2". But if you insist, please call security. I'd be happy to clarify this misunderstanding. Diana's eyes widened slightly at the mention of her husband and the renovation project, but she quickly recovered. I'm just doing my duty as a board member, she said, voice rising as she began recording with her phone. This gentleman refuses to provide proof of residency and is becoming confrontational. The phone swept across the pool area, capturing the scene for whatever audience she imagined would validate her actions. Marcus gathered his belongings with deliberate slowness, aware that every movement was being scrutinized and recorded. As Diana spoke with security on the phone, describing him as uncooperative and suspicious, a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Tomorrow morning, he would be leading the committee meeting that would decide whether to approve the $2.3 million renovation contract that Diana's husband's company was desperate to secure. Sometimes, justice arrived in unexpected packages, and this one was about to be delivered with a poetic flourish that Diana Whitfield never saw coming. 2 security guards arrived within minutes, their uniforms crisp in the afternoon heat. Diana stood with her shoulders squared, phone still recording as she gestured dramatically toward Marcus. This man claims he lives here but can't produce any identification, she announced, loud enough for everyone at the pool to hear. Marcus noticed several residents shifting uncomfortably, while others pretended to be absorbed in their phones, secretly recording the confrontation. Mr. Reynolds, the older security guard, Rodriguez, broke into a wide smile. How are you today, sir? Is there a problem? Rodriguez had been on duty the day Marcus moved in, had helped him carry boxes when the elevator broke down. For 6 months, they'd exchanged greetings in the lobby, discussed the latest basketball games, shared coffee on early mornings. Diana's face contorted in confusion. You know him? Her phone lowered slightly, the recording angle now awkward as her certainty wavered. Of course. Mr. Reynolds is in 1507. Been here 6 months now, Rodriguez confirmed, nodding respectfully toward Marcus. One of our most courteous residents. The second guard, a younger man named Taylor, looked between Diana and Marcus, quickly assessing the situation. Marcus saw the moment understanding dawned in the young man's eyes. He'd seen this scenario play out before. There must be some mistake, Diana stammered, her composure cracking. I've never seen him at any of our meetings or functions. And as a board member, I should know all owners. She tucked her phone into her pocket, the recording apparently forgotten as she realized her miscalculation. Marcus cleared his throat. Actually, Ms. Whitfield, I attended the holiday party in December, and the community meeting in February, where your husband presented the renovation proposal. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. I believe we were even introduced briefly, though you might not remember. His voice remained steady, professional, the same tone he used in boardrooms when presenting to clients who underestimated him. At that moment, Marcus's phone vibrated in his hand. A text from Sophia Chin, the community manager. Just saw the live stream. Someone's posting from the pool. You okay? Marcus looked up to see a young woman several loungers away, phone aimed in their direction. The video was already circulating, already being shared. By evening it would reach thousands. I don't understand why this is becoming such an issue, Diana said, her voice rising in pitch. I was simply doing my duty to protect our community. She turned to the security guards. You can verify his identity then? He actually lives here. The question hung in the air, redundant and revealing. Rodriguez nodded, his expression professional, but eyes communicating volumes. Marcus's phone vibrated again. This time it was Theodore Whitfield, Diana's husband, requesting an urgent meeting about tomorrow's renovation committee review. Marcus smiled slightly, pocketing his device. He had inherited 35% of Meridian properties from his uncle, making him the largest individual shareholder in the company that managed Oakwood Heights. Theodore's construction company had been courting Meridian for months, desperately needing the lucrative renovation contract to offset recent losses. Ms. Whitfield, Marcus said, gathering his belongings with unhurried movements, I understand your concern for the community. Security, thank you for your time. He nodded to Rodriguez and Taylor, who both returned the gesture with respectful nods. I believe I'll head back to my apartment now. I have some important calls to prepare for regarding tomorrow's renovation committee meeting. He emphasized the last words slightly, watching as Diana's expression shifted from confusion to dawning horror. As Marcus walked away, phone buzzing continuously with notifications, he heard Diana's urgent whisper to Rodriguez. Who exactly is he? Marcus didn't need to turn around to hear the response. He knew exactly what was happening. Diana was discovering that the man she had tried to humiliate was not only a legitimate resident, but also the newly appointed chairman of the renovation committee. The very committee that would decide whether her husband's struggling company would receive the $2.3 million contract they desperately needed. Sometimes, Marcus reflected, justice arrived wrapped in perfect timing. By evening, Diana Whitfield's hands trembled as she scrolled through her social media feeds. The video had amassed over 50,000 views in just 4 hours, with comments flooding in, most condemning her actions. Another pool Karen and racist HOA board member were trending alongside clips of her confrontation with Marcus. Her phone hadn't stopped ringing, friends expressing concern, fellow board members distancing themselves, and worst of all, her husband Theodore pacing their marble-floored living room, his face ashen as he made call after desperate call. Do you have any idea what you've done? Theodore hissed, covering his phone's microphone. That man is Marcus Reynolds, not just some random resident you could bully. He's the chairman of the renovation committee and a major shareholder in Meridian. His voice cracked with stress. The contract vote is tomorrow morning. We're already on thin ice after those code violations last year, and now this. He turned away, forcing his voice into a pleasant tone as someone answered his call. Before I go on, I would really appreciate it if you give this video a like, click the subscribe button down below. It would really encourage me to create more videos for you. Thank you so much. Alright, let's continue. Diana sank into her designer chair, memories flooding back. She did remember Marcus now, at the holiday party, standing confidently among the architects discussing the renovation plans. She had dismissed him then too, assuming he was someone's guest rather than a fellow owner. Now, searching his name online, the results made her stomach tighten. Executive partner at Reynolds and Walsh Architecture, featured in Design Quarterly, nephew of the late William Reynolds, who had been a founding investor in Meridian Properties. The pieces assembled into a devastating picture of her miscalculation. A text notification popped up from Elaine Covington, another board member. Emergency meeting called for 9 a.m. before the renovation vote. This video is a PR nightmare. Diana's chest constricted. Elaine had been her closest ally on the board, but the message held no warmth, no offer of support. Another notification followed, this one from the community forum, where several residents were sharing stories of similar encounters with Diana, incidents she had dismissed as minor misunderstandings now reframed as a pattern of discriminatory behavior. "I can't reach anyone at Meridian," Theodore announced, throwing his phone onto the sofa. "Not a single executive will take my call." He loosened his tie, his forehead glistening with sweat. "We need that contract, Diana. The bank is already questioning our loan extension after those problems with the Westfield project." He fixed her with a desperate stare. "You need to apologize, publicly, immediately. We can't afford enemies right now, especially not one who controls both the committee and has influence over Meridian." Diana's pride rebelled at the thought of a public apology. "I was doing my job as a board member," she insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. "How was I supposed to know who he was? He didn't exactly announce himself as some big-shot investor." Even as the words left her mouth, she recognized their hollowness. The truth was simpler and more damning. She had seen a black man at the pool and immediately assumed he didn't belong. Her laptop chimed with an email notification from Sophia Chun, the community manager. Discrimination complaint filed, mandatory board review. Attached was a formal complaint signed by 12 residents, with timestamp security footage showing Diana approaching only non-white visitors to the pool over the past 3 months, requesting identification. Evidence she hadn't realized was being collected, patterns she hadn't recognized in her own behavior. Theodore's phone rang again, his contractor calling with news that their workers were receiving threats on social media, with people vowing to boycott any property associated with Whitfield construction. Diana watched her husband's face crumple as he listened. Their carefully constructed world was unraveling thread by thread. The renovation contract wasn't just a business opportunity anymore. It was a lifeline they desperately needed. As midnight approached, Diana received one final message, this one from Marcus Reynolds himself. She opened it with trembling fingers, expecting threats or demands. Instead, she found something more unsettling, a calendar invitation for a private meeting before tomorrow's board session, the subject line reading simply, "Opportunity for resolution." No accusations, no anger, just 5 words that somehow carried more weight than any threat could have. Diana stared at the screen, realizing that whatever happened tomorrow would determine not just the fate of her husband's company, but her own place in the community she had claimed to protect. The community room buzzed with tension as residents filled every available seat. Diana arrived 5 minutes before the scheduled meeting, her usual confidence replaced by a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Theodore stood beside her, his normally immaculate appearance betrayed by the shadows under his eyes and a slightly askew tie. The whispers died down as they entered, replaced by pointed stares and subtle phone cameras aimed in their direction. Marcus was already seated at the board table, engaged in quiet conversation with Sophia Chun and the other board members. He wore a tailored navy suit that spoke of success without flaunting it, his posture relaxed yet commanding. Diana noticed how the other board members leaned toward him when he spoke, how they nodded at his words, a respect she had always demanded but never truly earned. "Before we begin," announced James Harrington, the board president, once everyone had settled, "I want to acknowledge the incident that prompted this emergency meeting." He gestured to a large screen where the video from yesterday began playing. Diana fought the urge to close her eyes, forced herself to watch her own face contort with misplaced authority as she demanded Marcus leave the pool. The room remained painfully silent during the playback, the collective judgment more damning than any shouted accusation could have been. "Ms. Whitfield has requested an opportunity to address the community," Harrington continued once the video ended, his tone carefully neutral. Diana rose on unsteady legs, Clutching a prepared statement Theodore had insisted she read verbatim. "I want to apologize for my actions yesterday," she began, her voice smaller than she'd intended. "It was not my intention to," she faltered as she caught sight of Marcus's steady gaze. The hollow words on her paper suddenly seemed insulting in their inadequacy. Setting aside her prepared remarks, Diana felt something unexpected break within her. "The truth is," she continued, her voice cracking, "I saw Mr. Reynolds and made assumptions I had no right to make. Not yesterday, not at the holiday party when I ignored him, not during the February meeting when I dismissed his questions." A tear slipped down her cheek, surprising her with its authenticity. "The video shows exactly who I was in that moment, and the resident complaints show it wasn't an isolated incident. I can offer explanations, but no excuses." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was not the defiant Diana Whitfield they had expected. Theodore stared at his wife in shock, his hand frozen mid-reach for the statement she had abandoned. The renovation contract papers sat in his briefcase, suddenly seeming like a secondary concern to the public unraveling of his wife. Harrington cleared his throat. "Thank you for your candor, Ms. Whitfield. Now, as this incident raises questions about our community policies, Mr. Reynolds has some announcements regarding Meridian Properties' position." The room went completely still. Most residents knew Meridian managed their property, but few understood Marcus's connection to the company. Marcus stood, buttoning his suit jacket with unhurried precision. "Yesterday's incident highlighted issues that extend beyond a single interaction," he began, his voice measured and clear. "As both a resident and a major shareholder in Meridian Properties, I have a dual responsibility to this community." He activated a presentation on the screen, revealing charts detailing community demographic data alongside incident reports. "Our analysis shows concerning patterns in how our security protocols have been implemented, particularly regarding visitors of color." Theodore shifted uncomfortably as Marcus continued. "Additionally, our review of the renovation bids has raised questions about Whitfield Construction's previous work for Meridian-managed properties." The screen changed to show documentation of code violations, safety incidents, and deadline extensions across multiple projects. "These aren't just administrative concerns, they represent real safety and financial risks to our community." Diana watched the color drain from her husband's face as years of cut corners and pushed boundaries were displayed for everyone to see. The renovation contract that had seemed so certain, the contract they desperately needed, was evaporating before their eyes. Yet as Marcus outlined the problems, his tone remained professional rather than vindictive. He wasn't destroying them with rage, he was dismantling their facade with facts. Somehow that made it worse. As the meeting continued, Diana realized that the true reckoning wasn't just about yesterday's viral video. It was about the entire system of privilege and presumption she had built her identity upon. The board vote was unanimous. Diana Whitfield would step down from her position, effective immediately. As Harrington announced the decision, Diana nodded silently, a gesture of acceptance that would have been unimaginable 24 hours earlier. The second vote, regarding Whitfield Construction's renovation bid, hung in the balance as Marcus stood to deliver his final recommendation. "Despite the documented issues with Whitfield Construction's past projects," Marcus began, his voice carrying through the now silent room, "I believe in second chances when accompanied by meaningful change." Theodore's head snapped up, disbelief written across his features. "I propose a conditional contract," Marcus continued, "with enhanced oversight, mandatory diversity in hiring practices, and a requirement that Whitfield Construction fund a new community inclusion initiative." He laid out specific terms: quarterly inspections, transparent reporting, and a significant financial commitment to training programs for underrepresented groups in construction. Diana watched her husband's expression shift from desperation to cautious hope. The contract would save their business, but the conditions would fundamentally transform how it operated. Marcus wasn't crushing them, he was challenging them to be better. The irony wasn't lost on her. The man she had tried to exclude was now offering them a path forward, albeit one that required them to dismantle their own exclusionary practices. Additionally, Marcus said, turning to address the broader community, Meridian Properties will be implementing new policies for all its managed properties. The screen behind him displayed a comprehensive anti-discrimination framework, including mandatory training for board members, security staff, and resident volunteers. "We will be establishing a diversity committee to review our practices and ensure all residents and visitors are treated with dignity, regardless of race, ethnicity, or background." When the vote came, the renovation contract passed with the new conditions attached. The meeting adjourned with a tension released but not forgotten. As residents filed out, many approached Marcus, some to thank him, others to share their own experiences. Diana waited until the crowd thinned, then walked slowly to where Marcus stood collecting his papers. "You could have destroyed us," she said quietly, her voice stripped of its usual armor. "You had every right to." Around them, the emptying room echoed with departing footsteps. Theodore waited by the door, his posture reflecting both relief and humiliation. Marcus looked up, his expression thoughtful. "Destruction is easy, Ms. Whitfield. Transformation is harder, but ultimately more valuable." He closed his portfolio with deliberate care. "The committee meets every first Tuesday. The diversity initiative will need volunteers who understand why it matters." The invitation was clear but not forced, an opportunity, not an obligation. 3 months later, Marcus stood by the pool, watching as community members gathered for the first cultural celebration, hosted by the newly formed Inclusion Committee. Children splashed in the water, while adults shared dishes from diverse culinary traditions. Diana moved among them, her previous boardroom confidence replaced by a quieter purpose as she coordinated volunteers. Theodore chatted with the construction team, more diverse now than any crew they'd previously employed, pointing out features of the renovations nearing completion under the new oversight system. Marcus felt a presence beside him and turned to find Rodriguez, the security guard who had recognized him that fateful day. "Quite a change, isn't it?" Rodriguez observed, nodding toward Diana as she helped a new resident's child adjust their floaties. "Never thought I'd see that transformation." "People can surprise you," Marcus replied, watching as Diana noticed a young black family hesitating at the pool entrance. She walked over immediately, introduced herself, and guided them to an available table, her welcome unmistakably genuine. The moment wasn't performative, no one was recording, no one was watching except Marcus. It was the quiet evidence of a lesson truly learned, a shift more meaningful than any public apology could have been. Before I go on, I would really appreciate it if you give this video a like, click the subscribe button down below. It would really encourage me to create more videos for you. Thank you so much. Alright, let's continue. As Marcus joined the celebration, accepting a plate of food from a resident he'd never met before, he reflected on his uncle's legacy. William Reynolds had believed in using power, not just to claim space, but to transform it. Looking around at the community that was now truly becoming home, Marcus understood the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge would have felt satisfying for a moment. Justice, however imperfect, created ripples that continued long after the initial stone had been cast into still waters.